Welcome to another edition of C-WAK Nighttime Talk Radio. That's C-WAK Nighttime Talk Radio. I'm your host, Bobby Wobby, and it's looking like a fine Tuesday evening somewhere here on planet Earth. That's where we're coming to you from tonight. Make that tonight from me. Wow, I think I overdosed on chocolate almonds and raisins because that made very little sense even to me, so I can only imagine with dread what it sounded like to you. However, we can't change the past, and so we march forward. I think we'll be doing a multi-topic program this evening. So tighten your seat belts or your kitchen chair belts and relax as best as you can with a tight harness, and close your eyes and open your ears and your mind. First topic we will discuss is insects or the like, including spiders and such. Now, spiders are my very favorite creepy crawly creature. I've let them crawl on me before when they found their own way to my flesh, or sometimes if I was in that type of mood, like on Halloween, or even sometimes on Easter or Christmas, I might be in the mood to feel a spider crawling on me, so I'll just pick one up off the floor and pop him on my skin and look at him go, or look at her go. It's really hard to tell unless you have a high-powered telescope if it's a he or a she. But that's not what we're really talking about here. More generally, we're talking about spiders in the sense that they are some of the most friendly yet misunderstood animals on planet Earth. Probably a few other planets too, but, you know, for the moment we can only deal with Earth, as we have not yet received permission from NASA administration to be traveling extraterrestrially, you know what I mean. We can't be doing the E.T. hip-hop planet hopping just yet. No, seriously, actually, I don't think we should be doing that. We should be solving this planet's problems before venturing into outer space, but that topic alone could consume 1,000 of these programs, so we're not going to get too heavy into that now. We'll go back to spiders. I once had a little boxing match with a spider. Well, it was a boxing match, sort of. I didn't wear any gloves, nor did the spider. But it was a boxing match in the sense that it was back and forth. You know, the spider would smack me with one limb and then with the other. Actually, I shouldn't use the term smack. It was more of a tap. It was a friendly boxing match. This particular spider I found crawling on my carpet one day, probably 5-6 years back now, and for whatever reason I thought, you know, let's just stick my finger in front of his little face, not touch him, but just sort of fake poke toward him and see what happens. And that's what I did. And what happened is, as my finger approached this particular spider, within about a few millimeters, or a quarter of a, or an eighth of an inch for all you American listeners out there who never heard of metric, Well, you probably heard of it, but, well, that's okay. We'll forgive you for that. So, anyhow, whether you're using metric or American measurements, this particular spider and my finger were very close to each other. My finger was basically a few hair widths from the spider's hairy face. And instead of retreating or simply running like mad in any old direction, perhaps even hopping onto my finger or over my finger and away, instead of doing one of those tactics like you might expect from a spider in that situation, our friendly spider did something quite different. As I say, it was like a boxing match. He or she simply raised first the left limb, tapped my fingertip with it, and then I sort of instinctively went a little bit to the side toward his other limb, and sure enough, he lifted or she lifted that limb up, and then I went back to the other limb. So the first two limbs, well, let's call them the forelegs, those two particular legs or appendages, they were lifted back and forth in synchronicity with my finger moving back and forth, so that it was like a little boxing match. Of course, I was using light pressure because I was dealing with a spider and not Mike Tyson, so I was using gentle pressure. And the spider, I don't know if he was using maximum pressure or not. We didn't get that far into it, even though I was telepathically trying to read his mind. He apparently was thinking other thoughts. I guess he was fantasizing about the spider orgy he went to the previous night or something, and so I didn't get too much details as to how much pressure he was using or she was using against my fingertip, but I thought it was the perfect amount of pressure in that situation. So we kept this up for a minute or two maybe, and then that was it. I basically put the spider in a bag because I was going to keep him as a pet and raise him to be even smarter than he already was, and he and I were considering entering politics, with me being the advisor and he being the leadership candidate for the, well, I'm not sure what party yet. We were considering the Green Party, but it could have been some other independent or open-minded thinking party. Certainly not some mainstream jackass collection like the Liberals, Conservatives, or NDP. Yeah, the NDP on a federal level are a little bit less scummy than the conservative jackasses that govern our country now, and they're a little bit less scummy than the former jackasses, aka the Liberals, but they are, according to their policies, they are just a little bit less scummy, not much. Basically, they're still not even talking about important issues that affect everybody on a day-to-day basis. Oh, you know, issues like the growing disparity between the CEOs of companies and the average worker's wages. That's something that you would think would be addressed by NDP party, a labor-friendly party that they claim to be, but no, they basically just talk about stuff that they talk about making little changes and changes to individual policies, but when it comes to the big picture, the really big stuff, you know, they're not talking about that. Oh, they may pick some issue and say, oh, you know, we need to protect the auto workers some particular region or other of the country. So then that'll become their issue for that election. Another time they may say, oh, we need more healthcare funding, so then that will become their issue. But these are not the real problems. The real problems are much bigger and too scary for them or any mainstream party to even discuss when they're in opposition, never mind act upon when they're in power. Anyhow, getting back to the spider, yes, I put him in a bag and with the intention of raising him to be as wise as destiny was foretelling him to be, but unfortunately I did something wrong, and my friend the little boxing spider passed away a few days later. He did have air. He had some water. I imagine he could go a few days without a bug. You know, because spiders can go a long time without actually snatching a bug and you know, sucking the juicy blood out of it. So so I don't think that was the problem. Perhaps he was in shock at his new plastic home, and perhaps the chemicals of the plastic overwhelmed his poor little spider lungs. And who do we have to blame for that? Well, I will again blame the government and the large corporations, because as they do with water bottles, they have these water bottles that release these weird chemicals that are all Latin named, even though they're English names. They're really Latin names, and they always pick these weird names for chemicals and for medication because they want to appear more sophisticated than the average person. But really, we all know what it is. If you can't pronounce it, it's usually bad for you, just like the ingredients on various grocery products in the store. If you can't pronounce something, you know, whether it's sterolyl lactate 2 or whatever the hell, or propionate sodium blah 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 blah, or tartrazine, which is an artificial colorant that is found in cheeses, it gives it the orange color. Anytime you can't pronounce something, you can be pretty damn sure that that's bad for you. And it was bad for our spider because he did pass away, and I'm going to blame the same people that put out these water bottles that release nasty chemicals into our water. Well, the bags that enclose our breads and pastries and cookies and whatnot, those bags are no better, I'm sure, even though I have not had it tested by any lab. As far as I'm concerned, the spider is better than any lab and a hell of a lot more neutral, a hell of a lot less biased. In fact, totally neutral, totally unable to be influenced by some large company that's funding a study of plastic. You know, once this lab is funded and supported by a company whose products are being tested within that lab, you can be pretty damn sure the results cannot be trusted. Well, there you are, folks. As I said, we were going to talk about various topics this evening, and we have been doing that. It's been a great pleasure spending a little bit of time with you again. We'd like to do this at least once a week for the time being. We will be expanding our show and our time in the near future. However, for the next couple of months or so, we may be only doing one show per week, as we are also doing other projects, including the final editing on a novel that I will be releasing this springtime. So, as much as I love to be on the air with you every night, that may or may not happen in the future, but for the short term, even once a week is pretty darn good. And our time is almost over now. It is we need to cut this off at the 15-minute mark, as we do for the time being. We will in the future expand those, but anyhow, want you to keep the hope alive. You know, when you're grocery shopping or voting. Never mind what's popular. Just do what your gut tells you. Buy what you think is best. Vote for who you think is best. And keep watching my videos, and everything will be okay sooner or later. Take care, everybody. Good night.